Dr. Chen is an assistant professor of educational technology here at the School of Ed at St. John's. She obtained her PhD from Purdue University. She received her Master's of Education from the University of Manchester in the United Kingdom, and her BA in English from Hunan University in China. Dr. Chen was a former public school teacher in London, and she has worked in the field of educational technology for over 12 years with research and global experiences. Dr. Chen's research interests are centered around the following three themes. First one is emerging technologies in learning and globalization, where she examines the affordances of emerging technologies in educational practices and research. The second theme is technology integration and teacher education, where she examines issues and trends in the 21st century teaching and learning. Last but not least, she explores the best practices in STEM education from interdisciplinary technology perspectives. Dr. Chen has published 25 peer-reviewed articles and has made over 50 international research presentations. She is also an editorial member, and reviewers for several international research journals. And Dr. Chen is very actively involved in international education research organizations, such as the Association of Educational Communications and Technology, and the Society of International Chinese in Educational Technology. Currently, she is working and leading a variety of funded research projects. These projects include investigating virtual worlds for K-12 teaching and learning, cultivating reflective teaching practices through mobile technology integration, and big data ethics awareness in STEM education. Dr. Chen enjoys working at St. John's as she embraces the exciting opportunities to work with students and teachers in the metropolitan New York area. So, without further ado, Dr. Chen, thank you.
And thanks for Olivia, and thanks for everyone. I see a lot of familiar faces who we had a lot of fun together. And some of your projects now is the showcase of 1015. Very proud of you guys, and I have some current students who are sitting here, and we have faculty and friends sitting here too. So welcome all. So this afternoon, based on the PP's request, and we'll be more than happy to spend some time together with all of you and sharing the topic that we always read in the news and we always heard and always is the to-go PD for every teachers. Just a little bit more about building on what Billy has said. One thing I did mention was every summer we have the Catholic Institution for Catholic Schools that was led by Dr. Krebs, Mary Jane Krebs, and St. John's campus. So every summer we will work with a cohort of Catholic school teachers over a week, and also developing the school leadership, curriculum leadership team over the academic year. So every summer we will meet, and my main responsibility for that team is also talking about technology and the Common Core in the classrooms. So given most of you will become a K-12 teacher, so that will be some of the focus that I'm going to talk about today as well. So because we always ask questions, I know Dr. Creddy shared some of the insights about Common Core with you a couple like last month, I think. But there's more about. So today my focus will be what does technology look like from that aspect. So Bianca shared a very interesting article with me, and maybe you will find it interesting too. So let's hear what she has found and picking up her brains, and then we will go from there.
Okay, so basically before I went to meet with Dr. Chen and talk about what this PD was going to be about, I found an article and just a little research about it. I found a really interesting one that was on TED's website. It was by Laura Moorhead, and it was called "There's No App for Good Teaching." It was really interesting because basically she talks about 8 new ways to think about technology and how it can actually improve the classroom beyond just throwing in like social media to meet certain Common Core standards. So she talks about different ways to really delve deeper into how we can use technology. But when I met with Dr. Chen, we started discussing how when we use technology in the classroom, we have to remember that we design lesson plans, we create them. We don't create these technological tools. So what we need to do is we need to take them, we need to tweak them to help better our classroom and help better our lesson plans and help our students. So we really drew inspiration from going off of that and thinking of teachers as designers and using technological tools as a base, but going further than that, tweaking it to your specific needs.
Thank you. So, how many of you, excluding those who worked with me in 1015 or 7266, how many of you thought yourself being a designer? Okay, 5 seconds count. So how many of you have thought of yourself as a future teacher or current student teacher as a designer? Thanks, Dr. Ness. And you have to learn what Dr. Ness does for his research, and you will love it, and you will get a lot of products. What does designers do? Come on, I see some expressions. What do designers do? What's your favorite brand? Oh,
I would say designers like to create, and they create many different things. So we can totally be designers in the classroom. We can create our environment and everything that happens within the classroom.
right? And maybe you haven't thought about this before today, but from today on, I would like to also challenge you to think about, just despite of all those maybe millions of roles that a teacher could play in the classroom, think of yourself putting on your designer's cap. Okay, so have that in your mind as we go on. I just want to have that. So a quick map about myself and my journey. You already knew that. You don't have the educational, the national flags. But today, so we're gonna talk a little bit about technology integration and tweak a little bit with the Common Core and see. I will give you some websites for those of you who were my students. Now it's the quiz time, and I will also spend some time sharing with you the new web technologies and its characteristics and how it can be applied into classrooms. And those will be essential when you perform your designing job. Okay? And then if we have time, we'll see if we can explore a couple of tools together. And see, we'll probably have some discussions later on. It'll probably depend on time. If we have time, we'll come back to that activity a little bit. But first of all, I want you to think about, as a teacher, as an educator, our main job, of course, is to teach. But teach can be conveyed in multiple layers and can convey multiple layers of meanings. When it's teaching, there is learning. So learning can be happening, especially for 21st century learning. It can happen in multimodal layout and outlets and environments. So we could learn in museums, you all do. And if you have taken my course, we explored virtual trips and web quests and inquiry-based online learning. So, but this is what about learning and what Common Core would also emphasize for our students, which means your job in the classroom to encourage students to get to this. Instead of just reading and hearing, seeing it, watching it, but actually really doing it. And it's very interesting, later on I will show you how Common Core sets those standards for us. And Boys Town, Common Core has an ultimate goal. It's to help our students become college and career ready. That's you guys. You're now sitting in the college classroom and in the university setting. That's how we want to help your future students to become as well. And and there are a couple, let's take a look at their portraits. You should be able, your students should be able to demonstrate independency, right? And build strong content knowledge. How many of you are adolescent education? Math? English?
Math.
Math. We don't have science. We need more science. Right? And so the rest of you will be in childhood. Yeah? And what's your concentrations?
Sociology.
Sociology? Wonderful.
Psychology.
And education. Okay. Gifted education. Okay. Math. Psychology. Math. Math.
English.
And
Math.
math. So we have a strong math group here. Yeah. So content knowledge-wise, we need to give our students a solid foundation when they first start, as they were young. I have a 2-year-old, and now I was panicking about 3 months ago when I read about Common Core. It's expected for kindergartens to be able to count to 100. I was panicked. I was like, really? How can she do that? And we teach her Mandarin at home, so it was like, wow. And my husband is a mathematician, so we were like, yeah, she has to learn both ways. The 10 digits first, and then the English rule, and all this vocabulary. How could it happen? Very interesting. Last week, she counted in Chinese, in Mandarin, until 29. Wow.
Yay.
She can't add to 30 because she don't know what's coming after 29, but she stopped at 29. I was like, wow, we have hope. English-wise, she can reach to about 12. So now she picked up 11 and 12 in English. So I was like, oh, maybe this is gonna work. Anyways, so content knowledge-wise, given we have such a popular math audience here, our students need that solid foundation. So for you become a teacher, and when you think about technology integration and Common Core, you have to be excellent in your content area before you actually enter the school, and you need to keep on going. You need to be the best. You don't have to be the best math expert in the school, but you need to be able to solve your math problems in the way that your students could be able to learn from you. All right? So I cannot emphasize enough, even though I'm from a technological perspective to looking at all this, content and your pedagogy actually has to go hand in hand. And also comprehend as well as critical thinking. And if you were in my 10-15 class, you know how much we emphasize in reflective and critical thinking in your project reflections. And also value evidence. If you are science and you know now in Common Core, it encourages to use different formats to present the data and how can students go, and if you are ELA, we have only a couple of you here, how to read through the information text and find evidence to support arguments. So it's all now weaved in, and they don't start until grade 5 or grade 6, starts really low. Okay, Dr. Chen, he probably shared with you the metaphor of climbing upstairs. So you probably, if you have attended that session, you probably are familiar. So right now, by reach grade 12, it's not that students are learning some skills in isolation. They already have the foundation built, but it's just deeper and more, the wide and the broad will be more mandate as they go on. But it has to start and they were young. So even though you will be childhood ed, you have to look at not just what's expected for your particular grade, but to look ahead where they're going. And adolescent, you have to look back where they're coming from. All right? So it's a continuing process. And also use technology and digital media strategically and capably. We'll take a closer look at that. What does that mean? And come to understand other perspectives and cultures. I studied in Manchester, which is the second largest. Manchester always fights with Nottingham, which one is the second largest. No one can fight with London, but it's a very metropolitan area, but it's very different from London, where I taught in public schools, and The students we have there are very similar to what we have in Queens. I shared with some of my previous students too. It's very culturally diverse and it's very socio-economic. When we look at their socio-economic status, it's very diverse. So it's a lot of challenge for you guys to become this urban teacher in this challenging time. First of all, I need to applaud for your heart and your commitment to going forward with your profession and your career in this field. You always have our support whenever you go. Always come back to us. But we have to realize that now our students are not only live in a village or in a city that's far away from the rest of the world, as I was in Indiana. And I was visited actually. I visited Indiana last week. I told some of my friends here that I literally forgot how little things they have. And so it's very culturally different from what we are having here. So it adds another layer of challenge to you guys when you are in your classroom, facing your students and incorporating all this. But also at the same time, it opens up a lot of opportunities for you as well. Okay, so this is what like overarching, what you, a benchmark would be. Your students have to be able to demonstrate, this should describe your student. And let's take a look at this technology specifically. Look at the red words. I'll give you a moment to read. ISTE is an organization that has worked on internationally published standards, not for content area, but for technology usage in classrooms. So it has been publishing its first set of standards technology usage standards back in 2002. And they revised it again in 2005, and then the most current one was developed in 2009 with not major revisions done in the past 6 years, but they added several other sets of standards, which we're going to take a look at later on. But this says a bit about the benchmark about technology usage for K-12 students. And very interestingly, me and one of my colleagues, and I'm currently working with Dr. Ness in analyzing the Common Core for math, but this is an analysis on ELA that some of my students already seen. I'm presenting this. But this is very interesting. I want you to take a look. How many of you can recognize the word in red? When you read that, what comes to your mind? Bloom's, yes. Bloom's taxonomy is what our go-to conceptual cognitive model about understanding how the levels of our students' learning. So what we did in this research, we analyzed, we picked the standards with technology components in it, and we analyzed, coded with the Bloom's taxonomy, and let's count. Let's see what Common Core expects our students to do in ELA from Bloom's perspective. Take a look at this and tell me what you see. I already highlighted it for you guys. So it should be easy. It's not a pop-up quiz. But I want to hear your thoughts. What do you see?
There's an emphasis on creation throughout all the grade levels.
Did you see that? That is a huge, I cannot emphasize enough, huge change that Common Core has impacted in terms of technology usage. Starting from kindergarten to high school students, 1/3, every grade, 1/3 of the standards emphasizing for our students to become a creator. And if you're familiar with this term makers movement, makerspace, and in Staten Island, we have some art faculty, arts faculty Exactly, and they working with local communities to have a space for students to just make things. And if you have followed TED Talks and you know there was a little boy from Manhattan, how he started this app developing club in his school, none of his parents or his teacher knew how to teach him to develop the Android platform. So he went to the Apple Store and then went to a couple of places, find the information he wanted, and then he started an app inventors club in his school. He's only 12. So this is what the kind of students you will be working with, and you will be working with my children, and who is now insanely in love with her Lego, and soon will be planks. She will be building things, right? So
We have to define what planks are.
that's right. Later, in next Dr. Ness presentation,
Another
you can
time.
learn that. So this is a huge change, and that you should really focus in your mind. Even in this is for ELA only, and we will present the math findings probably sometime next semester. But this is you need to be aware of. Your students need to be able to create, and you should provide that opportunity. And let's take a look at this word cloud. What patterns or trends do you notice? Any words stand out for you? I see technology. What else? Students? Yeah.
Collaborate.
Collaborate. Thanks for that. What else?
Experiences.
Experiences.
Cultures.
Cultures.
Communication.
This is, yes, demonstrate. It's about comprehend, right? So you actually could see some of the themes coming out from Common Core in here, and the portrait of our students. And learning has to happen. Always remember, technology allows so much for you to collaborate. I will later on share with you a lot of tools, the characteristics of that, but I want to share a quote. Learning learned in isolation will stay in isolation. Okay? So you need to be another point, like food for thought for you. First is think of yourself as a designer. Second, think of your teachers, think of your students as creators. Third, think of opportunities for them and you to collaborate. Okay? 3 food for thoughts for now. So let's see how many can come up. Let me quickly wrap up what we just talked about in our first part of the talk. Like technology and Common Core. This is another overview of it. Technology to collaborate, create content, and help them to become a problem solver. And I hope you are, because you are now already in a college setting, and soon you will become the person who can take the lead in your job, and you're supposed to have that skills and preparation already with you, right? In Common Core and in classrooms, not just in K-12, but also in college level, we want students to be able to produce and publish. That's great. Interact and collaborate, communicate using web tools, not just your Snapchat, or some new forms of, I learned about Snapchat last semester, I think, this semester, last semester. And you will be able to evaluate information presented in different media formats. We had media studies ever since we had media, radio, TV, radio, films, radio, TV, and then multimedia, then internet media. All those theories about how to analyze the media doesn't change much. It's the new format of how it was presented, presents itself some new challenges. So you can always go back and see, what did we learn when we learn the media literacy, and I think that's part of your core course in the university as well. Some of the art courses. Use those knowledge and apply those principles to evaluate online resources. This only evaluation of online information could be its own session, like talk about maybe in a 2 days workshop. So I can't cover everything, but I want to give you some pointers where you can think about where you should prepare yourself better, okay? Again, I want to emphasize in ELA, this is what's focused. Search information, apply information effectively. Do you know how to Google? Let me repeat my question. Do you know how to Google? Do you know how to Google effectively? Or Christine was smiling because I told my students a lot of stories about how to and what to find on Google. So there is a difference about a search and an effective search. There are strategies to find the information that you are looking for and be able to filter it in the process you are searching. So those are some skills that you need to practice. There are some tutorials on Google, actually. You can Google how to Google effectively. Let's see what you can find, okay? So there's a lot of those skills. You think you already have it, but when you really comes down, do you really know how to do it well? Can you do an educational search? How do you direct your students to the reliable information online? Those should be some of the breakdown questions you ask yourself. Okay? How do I know this site is legit? Do I know who created this website? Do I know when was the last time it was updated? Why should I use this person or this organization's information? If I'm from science, or ELA, does this bring any bias or different perspectives than what our students will learn? How should I use this more legitimately? So those should be some of the guiding questions before you assign students an assignment requires them to use the internet. You need to do a lot of homework beforehand. And that's some of my students went through the process of creating your web quest. And that's why we started from the planning process. How do you filter the information you want your students to go to, okay? And also, your students be able to know strengths and limitations of various technological tools and mediums. One of the challenges, there are so many tools out there. How do I, as a teacher, be able to tell which one is good? I'm going to give you a couple of websites that it's my top 3 websites. I always recommend teachers bookmark, and you can always go back and see. You need to do the work. You can't expect those information come to you and you can filter it. You need to be proactive, but you're not alone. Now the internet is all about socially connected in the global community. So you are not doing this alone. You are not the only teacher in this planet that worry about this. There are millions of teachers out there and millions of technological experts out there. They already thought about this and they put on their work onto it. So I'm going to give you some resources that you can go to guide you. In math, encourage your students to use digital tools capably and strategically as early as they could. But don't get them addicted, okay? If they play Minecraft already, use it. But don't take your instructional time. Plan it well. And there are so many advanced tools that's been developed, but requires a fee. So some of the things you need to know is to work. You're not working alone once you become a teacher or you are teaching in a college level. You're never working alone. You always be part of your faculty and you'll be part of this instructional team. So always work with your team. Later on I will show you what it will look like. What's the layers of the support that you should get when you are at school, okay? But there are many types of tools available. And again, I will show you some of the websites that could give you some pointers and some very quick to read and easy to read guides designed specifically for teachers. This is what I want to show you right now. In a school setting, actually this can apply to higher ed as well. The administration, there are focuses. So when we talk about technology integration and your usage, it's a multi-layered plan. One teacher alone can do everything, and one principal alone, one dean alone couldn't do everything. The whole community has to come together. Community includes teachers, students, administration, and parents. Okay? So if you are thinking in the future you might be in the administration route, those 5 parts will be something you should consider. Your administration, you need to have a vision for your school. There are many innovative approaches happening around in New York, like as well as other states in the United States. For example, Chromebooks adoption in Francis Lewis High School, blended learning approach with some online tools in archdioceses in New York. And also in Staten Island, we have e-reader schools, and they get rid of all the textbooks and require students to purchase e-text for adolescent level. Okay? So there is a lot of, so if you are part of the administration, what's your vision? What's your goal of helping your school to grow? Is it blended learning? So you need to really educate yourself as you go along. And also analyze the needs and the infrastructure. Oh, that requires a lot of technological experts to come in, and but you should be able, the person who works for this will be able to team together. Support professional development, establish multi-year technology funding. That's huge. When we talk about, but the good thing is now with the price decrease so much,